Hello, and welcome back to 10 Minutes With. Today I'm joined by a very special guest, Paralympian and rare disease researcher, Sofie Skoubo. Welcome, Sofie.
Thank you.
So I'd like to start way back in the beginning. What was your childhood living with a rare disease like?
I think that my childhood was pretty normal.
Mm-hmm.
I was diagnosed with neuromuscular disease when I was 5-6 years.
Mm-hmm. Did you have a quick journey to diagnosis, or was it somewhat extended?
I believe that my mom was worried because I was sometimes in kindergarten I was falling often, and there was something strange about my way of walking.
Mm-hmm.
So my mom thought there was something that wasn't like right. So she was contacting doctors and stuff like that. But what I remember is that it was pretty quick, but she would probably say that it was a long journey.
Yeah, I'm sure to you as a 5 or a 6-year-old, you maybe didn't understand all of the kind of in-depth things, but looking back on it now, it must seem like a bit of a blur.
Yeah, I remember that. I think I remember that someday there was some doctors and somebody from the municipality and a lot of people in my home, and then they were told that I got this diagnosis.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that it was just from that day on that it was more like my parents experienced that suddenly they have a child with neuromuscular disease.
Yes, yes. And were you always sporty even at that young age?
So I got a brother who is a former football player.
Oh, wow.
So I've been around watching football a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So sport has always been in my family.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I was pretty interested in football, of course.
Mm-hmm.
And then my parents tried to find some kind of sport for me because they didn't want me to play football. So I've been around different sport, like parasport, and then I found a sport for me, an electric sport, when I was young, and I was doing that, most of my childhood and also my adult.
Mm-hmm. And what was it that initially drew you to wheelchair rugby specifically, but also to a life in the sporting arena? Because it's quite one thing to do something as a child to then commit to such a high level of your hobby.
Yeah, I definitely wasn't expected to be like a Paralympic athlete. A day somebody asked me to try wheelchair rugby, but I didn't expect that I could play such a physical sport. I didn't expect that I could be in a manual wheelchair and push around.
Yes.
So in the beginning it was just for fun, and it was great friendships. And then suddenly I was on the national team in Denmark, and then the journey was just began.
And if there's one rumour that you'd like to dispel, or one thing that you would like the people at home watching this to understand about wheelchair rugby that is maybe a common misconception, or even just something that you'd like to be better known, what is that?
So if you see wheelchair rugby, it can be pretty brutal. So a lot of chairs is like smashing into each other.
Okay.
But wheelchair rugby is more than just hitting each other with the chairs. It's a lot of tactic stuff. It's a lot of like social part, and it's a lot of friendships. And what I really like about wheelchair rugby is like it's kind of like a chess play where you move around.
Yes, chess.
And you have to be like aware what the next move is from the other team, and then you.
Yeah, constantly reading the board and constantly thinking tactically about what that means for you and your position. And and I think that's a really interesting point, actually, that you brought it there about the social aspect, because so many people understand sport as a hobby and finding community in sport, but actually that must be even more important when you're living with a condition that people can often find quite isolating. Is that something that you've really taken joy in, the community aspect of wheelchair rugby?
Yeah, definitely. Especially when I was young. Of course, it was another sport, but what I did see there was that I was meeting a lot of people in the same situation as me, and they did understand me in another way, and I did learn a lot from them about how to live with with a diagnosis and how to live and be like a grown-up with neuromuscular disease. So it was really important for me to meet other people who could actually understand my situation.
And I think women in sport in general, or women's sports generally, are often chronically underfunded and face so many different challenges, and that is only compounded by the fact that you're in a Paralympic setting, in a Paralympic sport. So what would be your piece of, your cry to policymakers regarding wheelchair athletes in general, but specifically for wheelchair rugby?
I think sport has meant like enormous, has meant something for me because it formed me both as a athlete, of course, but also as a human. It made a difference for me to believe in myself and also see that I got a lot of competences. And I think if it's sport or if it's any other hobby, I think it's important to come out and have a community with others in the same situation. So that's definitely something that all countries, especially in Europe, should have focus on.
Yes, hugely. It's so important. I think the importance of community for everyone in general really can't be overstated. It's so essential to who we are as people.
Especially when you see at how many people is lonely and isolated today, I think that sports can make a difference in creating a community and feeling that you are part of something bigger.
And I'm sure you get asked this question all the time and probably absolutely hate answering it, but looking forward to this summer and the Paris 2024 Paralympics, what is your goal? Obviously, I mean, to win, I'm sure, but do you have a personal goal, a personal aim? And is there one thing that you're really looking forward to experiencing or to taking away?
I think that the fact that I've been at a Paralympic before is making the journey a bit more like enjoyable.
Few less nerves.
yeah, it's something about like enjoying this period with hard training and everything to build up to the Paralympic. But of course, I'm looking forward to coming to Paris and experience like the whole part of Paralympic. The last time in Tokyo, it was a bit different because of the COVID situation.
Yeah, of course.
And I hope that I can come around and see a lot more in Paris instead of just, of course, the most important is the competition and being ready there. But I hope that I also can feel like the Paralympic spirit in some way when I go to Paris.
Really soak up the atmosphere.
Yeah, exactly.
And if you could give one piece of advice to maybe parents at home with children with rare diseases who are looking to get into sport, what would that be?
I think the hardest part is always to go there, meet new people and try something new.
Yeah.
We all know that. So I think the biggest step is actually to take a decision and go and try it. Because I didn't want to try wheelchair rugby in the beginning. And I said no a lot of times. And here I am. For a lot of people, it can be hard to try something new, but also go in an environment with new people and also like the uncertainty about, can I do this sport? Can I do this hobby? So the biggest step is actually to go there and maybe push the children to try it an extra time.
That's amazing. Thank you so much, Sofie, for joining us today and for sharing what is really, I'm sure, an inspiring message to so many people.
You're welcome.
You've been watching 10 Minutes with me, your host, Rhiannon Walls. Make sure to tune in next time.